آل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين صلوات اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. Today, our short talk is about Hidaya, which is Islamic guidance. And we are talking about the role of the Imam in completing the message of the prophets. And we're talking about the role of the Imam in continuing the message of the prophets. So obviously that raises the question as to what is the message of the prophets. Now, first we have some people have sort of misconceptions about what the role of the prophets was. There is an idea out there. Some of these people are called like Quraniyun. These are people who say that the Quran is ma'soom. So therefore, why would, and any other way of trying to get information would be ghayru ma'soom. So the Quran is perfect, and any other way of trying to get information would be from an imperfect source. So why should we go to an imperfect source? We should solely rely on the Quran. This is something which is gaining traction online. The idea doesn't really make any sense when you think about it, but because it's out there, it's important to try, and it's kind of sounds compelling when you think about it, that the Quran is perfect, then I'll just get everything from the Quran. And then if a person says, well, what about this and what about that? They say, well, then are you saying the Quran's not perfect? If you say, well, you need the ahadith and things like that. Now, first of all, if you think about it, there really weren't that many holy books. Most of the prophets did not come with a new risala. We had a few who did, that they came with a holy book. Most of them would just keep with what the people were doing, and they would just sort of add to that, advising people. So the main jobs of the prophet actually was this job of hidayah and guiding the people and explaining to them what's right and wrong and what they should do at one time and what they shouldn't do at another time. It wasn't 90% of their job was just ahkam and what are the laws. The whole point is that the laws are supposed to serve us and they're supposed to bring us close to Allah. The second thing is that the beliefs and things and the major beliefs have to be correct. And those are things which we start off with our own reason, and we also take advantage of sayings and things of other prophets. So one of the sources is our reason. Does it make sense? And the other is if it was been proven to be true by a prophet, and then he gave us guidance and indication to go in a direction. Now, this is to get us going in the general right direction of good behavior, not the itty bitty details. But we know that we're supposed to be kind to our parents. We know that we should turn to Allah. We know that we should rely on Allah. We know we shouldn't steal. This type of thing, and also the belief system behind it, that Allah is just and Allah is kind, and these are in the Quran. But however, to get the details of the best thing to do, now you needed to rely on the prophets. It doesn't have to be from a system of logic on exact point of each and every detail when the niyat is right, when you're getting the main story right. So this is where people get wrong. That if something is proven with a reasonable assumption, we're able to act on it. It doesn't have to be 1,000% for these smaller details. What I mean is something like, let's say we have wudu, which is in the Quran, but the details of it, we have hadith. Now somebody could say, well, even if a hadith is from a sahih source and it goes back and we see lots of people doing it, there is a 1 in a billion chance that maybe the prophet did something a little bit different, like from logic. That maybe the Prophet did something a little bit different and you were confused, right? Somebody might make this argument. However small, if you go by logic, pure logic, that you didn't see the Prophet yourself, somebody who saw the Prophet said this is what he did, maybe 5 people saw the Prophet and said this is what he did, maybe they're all conspiring against you. However, human reason doesn't work like that. We don't say that just because something had a 1 in a million chance of being true or being false, that means that we don't work with it. I'll give you an example. Now, we go with reason. Now, if I see my house is on fire, then reason is to call the fire department. We all agree? That I see my house is on fire because I can see it with my ru'yatul ain. Okay? So I call the fire department. That's yaqeen, that's certainty, right? What if I see smoke? I didn't see fire. I see smoke coming out of the window. Isn't there some ihtimal? Isn't there some percentage? Isn't there some chance that it's something else? Maybe it's the house behind my house and it just looks from my angle like it's coming out of my window. Would a reasonable person at least call the fire department or check? Or if he couldn't confirm one way or the other, say call the fire department and be like, I don't know, but I see smoke coming out of my house. Right? What if someone else saw the smoke? Meaning one person comes to me like, yeah, Sheikh Farouk, and I'm like, what's going on? I just drove past your house, looked like smoke was coming out. And I'm like, well, maybe this guy's lying. Maybe he's mistaken. Another person come and says, Sheikh, I saw smoke coming out of your house. Right? Another person come and he says, hey, did you ever check your little ring cam? I checked my ring cam and it looks like there's a fire going on. Smoke and birds flying and all kind of indication that something's wrong. Can I say with logic, there's a possibility that there's just an electronic short, and there's a possibility that you just looked at the house from a wrong angle, and there's a possibility the guy who said, yes, I see your house, I'm looking at it now, and I'm on the phone with you, and it's on fire. Maybe he's lying. There's a 1 in a billion chance that all of this is just a massive conspiracy to get me to come back home so that you guys can prank me. Right? There's a chance. But does an aql person, a person with reason, go with that, or does he call the fire department? No, you act on the preponderance of evidence. There's so much evidence that this is probably true that you act on it. This is what we get when we go with the ahadith. Except for the ones which are mutawatir, which it's so unlikely that it's 1,000,000 to 1. But the other ones, there's a preponderance of evidence. Someone who's righteous said that the Prophet did this. It seems reasonable. It's inconsistent. It's consistent with the rest of Islam. We have it on a sahih source. The ulama have verified through various means. Okay, inshallah, do it. If it's not right, then you had your niyat in the right place. Right? Because they're taking out that Allah is rewarding you on your niyyah. For these actions that we do, most of the times it's on intentions. For the big things, no, it has to be with aql and also intentions. I can't just come over and make up a belief and then say, oh, I had good intentions. No, for these big things, we need hujjat and proof that's strong. The other things, we need enough proof to go on. We have lots of hadith that the Prophet prayed this way. All of the Muslims around the world prayed this way. More than likely than not, the Prophet prayed something like this. But in the end, Allah knows our intention that we're trying to do what we thought the Prophet was doing. Maybe it's a little bit off. And also, even if you think about it, in your actions, you're always a little bit off. The idea that I could do it exactly right and have my exact intention, that we know that it's going to be a little bit off. So that's not something which is reasonable. So Allah is actually asking us to do what's reasonable. And the big things which are certain, murder and things like this, these ones, yes. But these smaller actions, yes, because we're being steered in the right direction. Because what happens is when you try to take out the hadith, then it weakens everything else. Many of the explanation of the ayat of Quran, many of the points about aqidah, many of the explanations about these things, when you have the weak hadith, you don't believe in those, then suddenly the ayat, what does it really mean? It could be, maybe it's interpreted this way, maybe it's interpreted that way. The whole thing starts to fall apart because the Quran doesn't come and tell you, no, this is the correct interpretation. Maybe I read it and then I understand, especially also when you take that many of us don't know Arabic as our first language, and so sometimes we can just misunderstand it, like reading a translation and misunderstand it. And even those of us who do know Arabic, sometimes the meanings of the words changed. Sometimes I've had situations where we had Arab students and they're like, this is what the word means. And the teacher, he's not just an Arab, he's an Arabic teacher. So he's like, no, this word, it used to mean this, it means this now. So the meaning they thought it wasn't the correct meaning. When they read it, they think it means this, it means something else. Or you only understand it in context. Or some of the words, nobody knew what they meant. Even the Quran has some words which aren't even Arabic. They're Persian or something like that. So you have to know. So this is one of the things, which is that we do need this continuous guidance. Now, this is also the job of the Quran is not just that the job of the prophets is not just that he goes over and he hands you the book and he leaves you up to you. We see that this was never the sunnah of any other prophet. Prophet Musa didn't come down, see the people worshiping the cows, and then say, actually, my job is just to bring the Torah. And here it is. I've written everything down, mashallah. You guys take a hard copy. You guys want to scratch it down on some pen and paper. And me and Harun are going to go and we're going to do something else. If this was the sunnah, like if they're saying, well, no, the job of the prophet is just to give you the Quran and then leave, then why did the other prophets, not the Prophet Isa, just come and say, okay, well, here's the Injil, have a nice day. Prophet Musa, why do they come, live with the people, do jihad, show the people the details, explain things that aren't in the Quran? Then what are they doing with all of this? Why do we have this large corpus of hadith if their job is just to reveal the book and then hand it to you and then go? And this would open up the door to all kinds of tyranny, because now you can just change the words in the book. Because when Allah is protecting the Quran, He's not protecting it just by that we say that Allah is protecting it. It's not that if I try to change the words of the Quran, then like a lightning strike comes. No, it's written in such a way that it becomes room for interpretation. That room for interpretation is what protects it. So the Tawhut, he can say, no, I think it means something else. And then because he can give himself some room to play, then he can say, well, why should I change the Quran and look really bad? I can just go over and tell people it means something else. And maybe they don't read the rest of the Quran and they don't read the Hadith. And I can make them gumrah some other way. I can make them lost some other way. So I don't need to change the whole book. Also, the other protection is the Imam themselves. There's multiple protections, but we're just giving some, the way it's written. There's so many different ones, but one is the way it's written, but another one is the fact that the Imams are there and they're explaining the Quran, and that also is another protection because they're living by the Quran. So the Sunnah of the Prophet itself also is a type of a protection for the Quran. So you say the Prophet didn't do that, so this isn't what this verse could mean. We have no examples of the Prophet. You see how some of these Muslims who are extremist takfiris, they start doing things, and if you say this is the Sunnah of the Prophet and this is what they're doing, is it possible that the person who, maybe if you just go by the Quran, you can say, yeah, might be what you think, right? But if you say the Sunnah of the Prophet, he never did anything like that. He would defeat villages with non-Muslims. He would defeat villages with Christians. He would, all of these type of things. And there's no incidences of, let's say, the Prophet doing a genocide. There's no incident of this. So the Sunnah is countering and supplementing and also protecting the Quran from misinterpretation, because the Sunnah is clear what the Prophet did, that the Prophet never did anything like that. So you can't interpret now, come over and say this is actually what the rule of Islam is, because then we should have plenty of examples of the Prophet acting in the way that you just described. So now let's go to this word Hidaya, which is the job of the Imams. This word appears over 300 times. Some version of the word Hidayah appears over 300 times in the Quran. Sometimes it's in the meaning of guide, meaning like a person who is guiding someone else. We have an example like this. إِنَّمَا أَنْتَ مُنذِرٌ وَلِكُلِّ قَوْمٍ had. That surely you're a warner and every group, every community has a guide. This is one example. It's used this way. Sometimes, to get to the meaning of this word, it's used in the word like guidance, how we would translate it. إِنَّهُ لَهُدًى وَرَحْمَةً لِلْمُؤْمِنِينَ. That this book, surely it's a guidance, meaning the Quran itself is guiding you, and it's a mercy for the believers. Another way, which is interesting, is that it's used in, this is not the exact word, it's a little bit different. It's used in the meaning of a gift or a sacrifice. This is from Sheba, the queen of Sheba, when she sends a gift to Suleiman. وَإِنِّي لَمُرْسِلَةٌ إِلَيْهِمْ بِهَدِيَّةٍ فَنَاظِرَةٌ بِمَا يَرْجِعُ الْمُرْسَلُونَ. So I'm giving them a hadiyah. We say, what's a hadiyah have to do with a hadi? One of the things is, if you look, she kind of gives it away. Because we say hadiyah, what do you mean? Like a present or something like that, right? She sent it first. Before Sheba came, the queen of Sheba came, Bilqis, she sent something to kind of represent her and show what she was up. So she sent some gifts and things like that to Hazrat Suleiman. So it goes before you. When we're looking at a guide, that's what a guide does. A guide doesn't just show you the way. He doesn't just say it's that way. Like if I say, like I make a ishara, like someone says, hey, which way is it to, IC? And I say, I think you just head down that road, just keep going, take a left, and boom, you can't miss it. It's on the right, right? That's not a guide. He told me where it was. He didn't guide me there, right? He goes and he physically walks in front of you and he takes you there, right? Also, there's a little bit of an element of danger. Like a lot of times when people are going through a dangerous area, like you're going through a jungle or you're going through a desert, if you don't have a guide, you get what? You get lost. You start wandering. This is why we have on the opposite end, we have dalala. You have hudan and guidance, and you have dalal. So if a person isn't guided, as the ayah we just read, that they are daleen. So let's look at a word that kind of uses this. وَمَنْ يُضِلُّ اللَّهُ فَلَا هَادِيَ لَهُ. That whoever Allah misguides, then there is no guide for him. So we look at that, the guide, and we're looking at the example of the prophets, and we see that the Imams are now completing this, that the prophet goes first, and he doesn't just tell us what the way is, he shows us the way. This is what goes back to what we're talking about, the Sunnah. So the prophet goes and he says that this is how you worship Allah, and he worships Allah, and then you are guided to the worship of Allah. That you have a people who are in Jahiliyyah or in Dalala, they're lost. They don't know, should I worship Allah this way? Should I worship Allah that way? Should I do this or should I do that? Should I do this first or should I do that first? And the guide comes and he says, let's go this way. He explains it to you. Okay, what we're going to do is we're going to walk out to this road right here. We're going to take a left. We're going to get on I-10. We're going to walk for about 20 miles. Then we're going to get to this. We're going to take another left. And then we're going to head to the where direction we're going. And you say, okay, mashallah. And he goes there with you and makes sure you reach there. Then after you get there, you give him his pay, small fee he collects from you, right? He did a good job. He got you there safely. You would have been lost. You might have been somewhere else. So what's the fee, the small fee that we have to give? Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad. He said, I'm not asking you for much. No money, no this, no that. I'm just asking you for a small fee, which is mawaddata fil qurba. Please give us salawat. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. For guiding you for this najat that he gave you, that this is the sabil in najat, that if you're lost, if anybody's ever been really lost and you get a guide, you really know what it means. Because a lot of times we're like, now, oh, I have Mr. GPS or something like that. In the past, you used to have a map. I know some of the brothers remember. You're driving, you got the map, and you're steering with one hand, you got the map in the other hand, right? And sometimes you go somewhere and you are lost. You don't know up from down. You don't know left from right. It's dark. There's no signs on the street. You know, sometimes if you're by yourself, it's bad. Sometimes if you're with your family, it's worse. If you're by yourself, you're wandering around the street. Sometimes you're wandering around, you have your family with you. Now it's not just me. My family is now lost. If something, because I go over and I find some gangsters, I get beat up, maybe, okay, it's the worst thing that can happen. But I don't want to, I'm wandering around in the hood or the jungle or the whatever, and now I've got my wife and kids with me, and you're lost. That feeling of being completely lost, that I don't know where I'm going, I don't know which way is left, I don't know what, sometimes it happens if it's dark out, or if there's like, sometimes on a day like this, which is cloudy, you start walking in a circle, walking, you're not getting anywhere, because you can't see, you can't tell left from right, up from down. Did I take a left here? Did I take a right there? You're in the jungle. It all looks the same. You're in the desert. You may be walking and the water is behind you, walking further and further away from it, not knowing. So this is what the guide does. He takes us from a state of danger, a state of confusion, and now he takes us to the state of safety. So we have to think about what is the effects of misguidance. And also it says that Allah misguides people. Some people are like, well, Allah misguides people? Why would Allah misguide these people? Allah gives us the tools to misguide ourselves. It's not that He misguides you. Allah shows you the way. He gives you the tools for guidance. So you have your aql, that's like your compass. You have your holy book, that's like your map. Okay? But sometimes you say, you know what, I don't really like where it's taking me. So the compass, the map is taking us and it says, give in sadaqah. You're like, actually, I'm kind of stingy. I would rather not do that. So I go and I change the direction and I go the other way. This is my map. I can write on it what I want. So the map says, take a right. And I say, write on my map, take a left. I say, mashallah, look, it's right here on the map. It says, take a left. You're like, you wrote that. That's how you got misguided. So Allah gives us this ability. If we want to be misguided, we don't want to be on the right course, we want to get it wrong, we have the map that takes us off the right course. Now, sometimes a person is misguided not by his own choice. Some of the brothers, I can see they have a question on their face. What about if I was misguided by accident? My father had a bad map. He had wrote all kind of things. His great-grandfather before him wrote whatever he wanted on it. Another person got it and wrote whatever they wanted. And now I have a bad map. So now I can't make heads or tails of this thing. Okay? But my heart is in the right place. Do I really need to now get guidance? Yes, even then you still need the guidance. You can't say, oh, I'll just have khoshniyat. I just have a good intention. No, even then you need guidance and the benefit of the guidance. Why? Because sometimes being misguided can still hurt you in this world. We see this in this world. So I can't say, oh, I'm headed to IEC. IEC is that way, let's say, maybe. And I go this way. Do you get to IEC? No. Well, I had an intention. No, but you might fall off a cliff. If a cliff was the other direction, you still fall, like you still have the worldly effects. So there's one of the other qawm, they say, oh yeah, drinking or whatever like that is halal because Hazrat Isa died for our sins. But if you drink, you still get drunk. So maybe you thought that it wasn't a sin, but the effect of drinking still affects you. Also, sometimes a person makes worldly mistakes and then those grow into spiritual errors. So because you drank, you got into a fight, you lost your job, you became hopeless, you had bad ideas about Allah. So you mean you made a worldly error, maybe with your niyat was mubah, you thought, oh, it's just a little bit of fun with friends or something like that. But you made a worldly error, then it had a effect on you, loss of aql. So your decisions weren't very reasonable. Because you made an unreasonable decision, you, let's say, quit your job when you really needed it. Now you're hopeless because things are going bad. And now you're like, why did Allah do this to me? Right? There is no. So I started to have a spiritual effect from a worldly decision. And this can be so many things. So many of these people who don't follow the A'imma alayhim salam, they are do it on, they think, they go to their sheikh, they say, should we follow the Ahlul Bayt? The guy's like, no, don't have to do it. He's like, oh, my sheikh is a good sheikh, he wouldn't lie to me. And he goes over and he doesn't follow Ahlul Bayt. Some of them are stubborn, hard-headed, keep studying anyway, but some of them no, they just accept it. He's never lied to me before. He's a good sheikh. He must be on the right path, and he follows that person. Now you still get the bad effects of not having followed the Ahlul Bayt. You still lose the worldly benefits of not having followed the Ahlul Bayt. You still lose the spiritual benefits that you could have had by not following the Ahlul Bayt. So the other part is now spiritual. There is a spiritual benefit to following the Ahlul Bayt, to being humble, knowing that the Ahlul Bayt are perfect, to know that I have to keep working on myself, versus some of us who were followers of the other madahib before, because we didn't really have a concept of isma, you think I can just be tough, make my salats, pay my zakat, and that's it. What happens is you stunt your spiritual growth. When you're looking at the perfection of the Ahlul Bayt, you have such a tall order. You're constantly working at it. But if you think all I have to do is be tough, make salat, and get a tasbih, then okay, I reached there. I'm tough. Okay, mashallah, I beat that guy up. I got my tasbih. Okay, said my tasbih, make salat. Okay, did that. Got the dish dasha, mashallah. Got the leather socks too. That's extra. And you start to not really grow. Did you pray? Because no matter how many times you pray, you can't really perfect your prayer. Because I'm like, my prayer needs to be like the prayer of, Imam Sajjad. Prayer of Imam Sajjad is that he would go and he would make sajda, and then all the dirt and the rocks and the trees and everything would be doing tasbih with him. So until your sajda is like that, then you'd have work to do. If that's what you're struggling at, then that's a way, like, I haven't heard a peep out of any dirt or anything. So you got to keep going. You got to keep working at it, working at it, working at it. The other one is theological issues. Some people, because of the issues that they have in theology, they have wrong beliefs in their theology because they are following a wrong path. Whether it's from some of the other madahib or some of the other religions, they're not guided. So they start to make akhta in their belief system. The beliefs now filter into actions. So you have a wrong idea, and then that wrong idea affects how you act. Sometimes you have a wrong idea about God. Sometimes you have a wrong idea about prophets. Sometimes you have a wrong idea about this. You have a wrong idea about that. I was doing research on the story of Hazrat Ismail and Hajar, and I was reading in the Bible to see what they have to say about it. And again and again and again, they had Sarah being racist towards Hajar and then God backing her up in her racism. I mean, she's doing something wrong, and then God's like, yeah, go for it. Now, some people are so, for whatever reason, they're so good-natured or something like that, they kind of just, that's not what it meant, and just brush it off. It must mean something else, and ignore that. Some people, no, they take it to heart. Maybe they have some sort of weakness of their iman, And they're like, ah, mashallah, that makes me a good person. I'm better than everybody because of my race. Fall right back into the issue of Iblis. So having this, and you say, where did they get this wrong idea? They didn't have guidance. Someone changed something in their book. It started making them think that they were better than other people based on their lineage. And now their theology now led them to do bad actions in the real world and to have problems. Maybe later on they review their religion and say, you know what, this can't be from God because it has this idea in it. And then they say, you know what, there's no such thing as religion. Sometimes people go that far. Trinity and other things. The other one, Yadullah fawqa aydihim, there's like a verse of Quran. The hand of God is over their hands. When you have the Ahlul Bayt, it explains it for you. When you don't have the Ahlul Bayt, you're like, no, that means God has a hand. Then if you start thinking about it, it creates all kind of logical problems. If God has a hand, then he has the rest of a body. If he has the rest of a body, then he's contained in the rest of the universe. If he's contained in the universe, he needs the universe. If he uses the universe, then he can't be God. Like if you follow the logic, most people don't think about it, but if you follow the logic, that's where you end up. So meaning being, like it's not that, oh, I could just be daleen and it's okay. No, being daleen, being lost, now can have a cascading effect that now you actually now lose the whole religion because of your misguidance in this particular issue. Please give us salawat. So we want to look at one of the examples of Imam Husayn and the example of one of his Sahaba, which is his companions, which is Hur. One of these examples of guidance from the Imam. So everything in his journey on the days of Karbala is guidance that he's showing us. So now we come to the example of Hur ibn Ziyad al-Riyahi. Sorry, ibn Yazid al-Riyahi. So he was a warrior in Kufa who apparently was not really that much into politics. He was just a soldier. He just follows orders, does his job. They said patrol the outskirts. He patrolled the outskirts. They said Imam Hussein is coming. I'm sending out some soldiers to stop the Imam. So when the Imam was walking and his companions started to see the horses, they saw the ears of the horses, they thought they were getting to Kufa. So they got excited. And then when they came closer, they realized, no, these are actually horsemen. And they came riding hard because they were ordered to stop the Imam. When they got to the Imam, they were thirsty. And they said that we're here to stop you from going to Kufa. The Imam said, no, wait, first, he gave them water. He said, you seem like you're thirsty. He gave them water to drink and stuff like that. His companions were like, let's fight them. He said, no, give them water. He gave them water. He gave their horses water. He was showing so much kindness to them. And then they started arguing that, no, he was like, no, I'm going to go forward. They're like, no, we have to send you back. And they started arguing. And his companions were like, let's just kill them. We'll fight them, break past them, and then enter the city. But the Imam was not wanting to be, you can see the guidance. He didn't want to be the one who is initiating fighting. So you see the sunnah, that the Imam is not one who's going to take power out of brutality or makar or this type of way. He said they were at an impasse. And while they're arguing, he told Hur that may your mother be bereaved of you. It's a saying in Arabic. Thakalatka ummak. That means your mother, like you die, and your mother cry over you. And Hur said, normally if someone says this to me, I would say the same about their mother, but I can't say this to you because your mother is Fatima Zahra. So, salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. So he said that, then let me go back. If you're not going to let me through, then I'll return. He said, no, my orders are to not let you return either. I can't let you to Kufa and I can't let you return. He said, okay, well, take me to some other place. He said, my orders are to take you to a place where there's no water. So they took him to another edge of another town. But what's very interesting is Hur still was showing some of this mawadda to the Ahlul Bayt. That when they used to make salat, he would pray, he and his soldiers would pray behind the Imam. He took him to another place and they said, "What's the name of this place?" And they began giving different names. He said, "This place," some people were like, "This place is called Furat." He said, "No, there's another name." He said, "This place is called Nainawa." He said, "No, there's another name." He said, someone, old person said, "No, actually, this name of this place is called Karbala." This is the, and Imam Husayn, yes, said, "Yes, this is the place we're stopped. This is the place of Karb wa Bala, which is trials and death. Here is where we're going to stop." So the Imam stopped there with his family and began making his preparations as the rest of the army of Yazid began to collect around them. And they began arguing and negotiating and things like that. And Hur began to feel that he had done something seriously wrong by just blindly following orders and stopping the Imam. What's the order of Ibn Ziyad when the Imam is right there? You should have followed the order of the Imam. And these things started churning in his mind and making him feel uncomfortable that I did something seriously wrong, that my love of this world, my obedience to my tribe has now led me to do a wrong, a grievous wrong, and trap the Imam. And they now began preventing the Imam from getting water to put pressure on him. And Hur began to hear the cries of the children of the Imam, that he would hear the cries of Fatima Zahra, of the children of Fatima Zahra, and his wife and children are safe at home. And just imagine this, that you have done this type of a sin. This is the example for us, that our Imam is not returning. Why? Because we are the ones preventing him from returning with our sins that we've done. And Hur was sitting and wondering, how can I make amends for this? I have to do something. That moan that you hear in your soul when you know that you've really lost everything, you've really messed up. But the thing is that Hur is still alive. This is the chance that we have now, that even though our sins, because we are bad servants to Allah, we are bad mawali of the Imam, we still have life that we can now rectify this sin. So Hur began thinking about it, and finally, he rushed back to the side of the Imam. And he began to cry, "Oh, my Imam, I've done such a bad sin. I've done something so terrible. I've trapped you. I've trapped your family. I've trapped the children of Fatima here on this place. This place of Karb wa Bala, this place of death is because of my actions. Because I was a sinful person, I've put the Imam in trouble." And the Imam said, "No, I'm going to forgive you." He said, "Please, as part of my forgiveness, please let me be the first to go and fight for you, O Imam." So when they started the battle later, first he called the Kufans, he was telling them, like, "Don't repeat my mistake. Join the Imam. Come, how can you see that the pigs and the dogs of Kufa are drinking the water, and the children of Fatima, the children, the Saki of Kautar, they're hungry, they're thirsty, and they're crying." But none of the enemy joined. So when he got permission, he went and he fought. And he fought and he fought, and finally he became tired. He started to get tired. The enemy had him surrounded. And finally, they cut him down. And he called out to Imam, "Come and save me." And the Imam ran to him and said that, "You fulfilled your debt. You're surely free. Your mother named you Hur, and you're free in this world and the next." سيعلم الذين ظلموا أي منقلب ينقلبون. صلي على محمد وعلى آله.